Hey there, folks. It is time for another review for a product from Funds, whatever. I've had this one for a little while and haven't had the chance to talk about it because I needed to test it with someone else. And as I get into it, I'll be able to explain why that was the case. So this is a wearable strap-on. So unlike your traditional strap-on, this does not go into a harness. This is intended to stay in place basically on its own. So the reason I needed someone else to test this with is because I do not have the equipment to properly wear this, because this bit is intended to be inserted vaginally. Ideally, this part will rest on the clitoris, and then once that's in place, you make use of this end like you would with any other strap-on. So before I talk about my experience in actually putting it to use, let's go through some features. So it does have a remote, and okay. So, standard power. Now there is separate vibration controls for these and for this. Now these will both vibrate together. So yeah, if I turn on the vibration, both this part and this part are vibrating. Now it goes through the standard things, increased intensity, and then various pulses, which is slightly disappointing because if you remember another recent one that I reviewed from the same company, I really loved that they had intensity settings separate from the pulse setting, so you could just increase the intensity and didn't have to mess with going through the pulses if you didn't want to, and you could increase the intensity on any of them. Whereas the way most of these are designed, you can increase the intensity for the steady vibration, but once you're into the pulses, it just is whatever it is. But there's that, and then there's this lower one, which gets that to moving. I guess thumping might be a good way to put it. And similarly, you can increase intensity. Now this one doesn't have any of the pulse rates. This is just increasing intensity, but it gets pretty intense. And both of these can be adjusted from the remote. Top one for the vibration, and then lower one for this little number. Now, the one thing that I'll note, talking about actually putting this to use with a partner, is that for this to stay in place, it does require that legs be kept closed, because while this will insert pretty well, the shape alone is not going to keep it there. It is going to be, so like, if my hands are the thighs, it's these, you don't necessarily have to like clench especially hard, but you do need to keep your legs closed, otherwise it is going to slip out. Now, that's not the most restrictive in the world, but it is slightly restrictive as a result in terms of what positions will be available to you. Whoever is wearing this is going to have to remain in a position where their legs can be closed. Now, obviously, there's still plenty of options there because you can have your legs closed whether you are standing, whether you are laying down. But any more inventive or limber positions, the wearer is not going to be able to keep it in unless the legs are closed. Now, I'm not going to knock that as like a fault of this particular one, because at least as I understand these toys, and this is my first experience with something like this, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Like, it's just not going to stay in otherwise. So that just is what it is with this kind of toy. But overall, this was rather nice. And my partner did enjoy it as well. They didn't like the focus was more on the sensations for me. Like they did like the vibration and this, but it wasn't something that was going to get them all the way there. But like it did add pleasurable sensation, and they did like both. We did try both. And as far as a a strap on and being penetrated by it is, it's not bad. It's got, some bend, but since it is a vibrating one, the head is really rigid, which once you're dealing with vibrating toys, that's kind of the way it is, because if it has the mechanics in it to vibrate, there's going to be some rigid stuff in there. And I tend to prefer my toys with a bit more give, a bit more, honestly, a bit more like kind of how the middle of this is versus this, which is really rigid. And that's just a personal preference. And again, when you're talking about vibrating, there isn't really a way around that. I think for me personally, and this is just me, I think my personal ideal version of this toy, this wouldn't have a vibrator in it, and it would just be a slightly less firm dildo, effectively. But this was certainly interesting to try, and it was fun. I don't know if it's going to replace a regular strap-on, but for something a little different and for shaking it up, this will probably see intermittent use. I had fun with it. We both had fun with it. So yeah. Wearable strap-on. First time trying something like this, and color me intrigued. I can definitely see the appeal for some folks. And I think if you've been curious, it's something worth checking out and worth giving a shot, assuming you have someone to try it with. So yeah, that'll be it for this one. There'll be a link in the description below if you feel like checking it out for yourself. Thank you to the folks over at Funzy, whatever, for sending it my way. And thank you very much for listening. So you take care of yourselves out there. You are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved.